Beep beep. What is up, ninjas? My name is Sam World, and in today's tutorial we're going to talk a little bit about how you can slither in your way like Draco Malfoy into your listeners' ears with some nasty modern big room, I won't say neural bass lines, I'll say slithering kind of bass lines, because I don't want to, I don't want to make the neural bass line guys feel all important and stuff. Now, in order to follow this tutorial, guys, you are going to need serum, silence, something that can give you a big room super saw or a bunch of sine waves that you can distort, just depending on which one you're kind of trying to go for. In this tutorial, we're going to focus more on the big room saw, the more modern big room bass house, whatever you want to call it, slithering style bass line again, or the neural bass. In order to make it, we're also going to need something that you can utilize, like the wow filter from Soundbites, or Soundtoys has the Filter Freak, which I really like. I've been learning how to use it, as you guys know, I've been working on a pack for you stamp guys with the producer school, and we are going to have a couple of Reese fills in there. But again, it all goes back to that saying, teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Give a man a fish, then you just feed them once. As always, guys, if you want to support my channel, make sure to head over to evilsounds.com, where you can find a lot of sound banks. The pack, Destinations, which is a stamp themed pack more towards the big room side of stuff, is going to be coming out actually June 5th, so it's going to be this coming Friday. So if you guys want to support my channel and the Producer School's channel, make sure to check it out when it comes out. And with that being said, let's get started with this tutorial. The first step, guys, is going to be to find the right sound that you want to implement this effect with. So you could go with a big room saw from any of the Evolution of Sound big room sample packs or sound banks, as well. If you have some vandalism or anything laying around, you can definitely find a lot of good starting points in those. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to keep it simple and utilize a standard super saw that we can essentially distort and start to apply modulations to. Alright, guys, so for the first step, what we're going to do is we're going to essentially make a really quick sound source here. So we're going to hit Command Shift T or Control Shift T, create a MIDI track. Let's call it our little Reese fill and whatnot. From there, we're going to go inside of Serum. But again, if you have any sort of preset, you can essentially do the exact same thing we're about to do. Again, just be common sense about it and know what we're going to do, what we're going to be messing with here. So from here, I'm just going to add maybe like 5 voices to the sound, like so. Just distort it a little bit there. Let's add a form of distortion. Now from there, the important thing is going to be the portamental time in the synth, which is going to be found at the bottom right of Serum. This is super important because what you're going to essentially hear in a lot of these sounds is like so there's a lot of portamental legato. The portamento is going to control the time between the notes. So if I decide to go from a low D, it's controlling that shift from bottom to up. Now there are some other options that you can do, guys. A lot of people also like to use sine waves, and then we'll run a diode distortion on that to get this sort of sound. From there, we're going to OTT that way. I hate this pencil look. We get this sort of sound, and then from there, we also have another sort of sound that we can go for. But for this tutorial, again, we're just going to stick with the basic sauce, the cream of the crop, as we like to say. The second step, guys, is going to be to figure out what kind of melody you want your Reese bass line to play. Now, what a lot of these guys are doing is pretty simple stuff, +1 semitone, using the 5th in the scale in order to get some really cool ones. The other cool thing you can also do is you can essentially put certain notes up an octave and then get a little bit of a slide to them utilizing the portamento in your synth. So let's do that right now. From here, we're going to create the melody for this. Now, I personally like to do it on the MIDI keyboard. I find it's a little bit more fun, as well as you can implement those nice upper notes just to kind of gauge how it's going to sound like. So let's kind of try out a few melodies we can do. Again, the key here is going to be all about where you're gliding to and when you glide on the melody. So let's see what we can jam out to. Okay, so I think I'm going to record that real fast. Okay, let's delete the old one that we have there that we created. Okay, so we're going to probably go with that there. Okay, now we just got to fine tune that. So, of course, we're going to go Command U to quantize. Now, from here, you can decide a couple things. Maybe the length of this one. Nah, I like it better like that. Okay, I think that's going to be cool. The last part of it feels a little rushed, but again, this is going to be good enough for what we're trying to do. From here, we can also apply some form of pitch bends if that's what you guys want to go with. And honestly, pitch bends can make a huge difference in the way that it sounds. It kind of gives it a little bit of life, like the sound is a little awake when it comes to the pitch, but we're going to leave it like that. Again, you can take a little bit more time to kind of finalize what you want. Again, this is a tutorial, so we're going fast through these little things so that you guys can kind of gain the theory, the basics of it. But from there, that's what we're going to have. So once we have the sound and the melody and it's starting to sound kind of cool, it's time to apply the change over time to the sound in order to get those really cool, like, kind of vibes to it. Now, this vibe is going to come from just, again, change over time. You can put a phaser, you can do a lot of different things, experiment here, but we're going to keep it simple and just utilize filtering and maybe a little bit of modulation to the waveforms in order to get some cool movement in the sound. The next step, guys, is going to be to apply a form of modulation, and this is what's going to give the sound that nice dynamic, that feel that it's changing, that it's slithering. Now, there's a couple of ways to do that. The one is that you can utilize a filter in order to do that, and what you want to utilize is going to be the multi-featured filters, which is just two filters combined together, and then you're going to have morphing style filters there, which can also be used pretty cool. This is where it's going to get a little bit of difficult to find the right one, or maybe you might pick one right out of the get-go that sounds good for you. But again, this is where it's going to get a little, oh shit, this is getting a little hard here. So just for sakes, we're going to go with that. We'll see what this is, okay? So here we have our cutoff, which is a high pass going from low to high, obviously. So we can use that. From here, we're going to have another filter knob, as you can see, or frequency knob, which controls the notch. That's what the N stands for, HN12. That means high pass notch, 12 dB type slope filter. So we're going to have sort of like a parallel, or I think, yeah, it's going to be a serial filter. What that means is they're both applying the EQ. You don't have the sound going into two separate filters. But again, nothing to worry about there. So from here, what I could do is I can implement an LFO to it to move the high pass up a bit. And then from there, we're going to apply that to our frequency here as well. Maybe we can move it to the right. And then let's put a bit of drive. We can also play with the resonance and whatnot. It's all about the change. And then let's put an envelope on it. We're going to make this last a bar. And we're going to turn it off. And then from there, we can kind of play around with this. So now with a couple of changes here, we're going to get something that sounds like this with the distortion on. If I take it off, you can see that we get kind of more of the sound that we're trying to go for. However, I'm going to leave the distortion there just so that I can talk about a really cool filter. From here, I'm also going to add this to something else, maybe like a little bit of a sync. Okay, cool. From there, it's time to mess around with Filter Freak. Now, Filter Freak, guys, is going to be from Sound Toys. This video is not sponsored by them, but this is what I've been essentially using a lot. So if you have a sound, let's say like a big room saw already that sounds really good, and you don't want to do heavy distortion on it, you kind of want it to stay the same, but you still want to get that really cool effect, that really cool respace, then this is probably the plugin that you've been looking for. Now again, there's another plugin out there called Wow, which you can also utilize, which does almost similar stuff to this, just different outlines and a different company making it. But again, you can get great results with both. Now, the way Filter Freak works is simple, guys. We're going to run two filters. As you can see, we have here a band pass, and then here we have a low pass. You're going to be able to change the resonance by utilizing the res. You're going to be able to boost that up. So think of that as sort of a drive-in serum. And then at the bottom left here, you're going to be able to switch the filter on filter 0.1. You can have a low pass, a band pass, a high pass, and of course a notch. On the right side, you're going to have your dB pull. So as you guys know, if you've watched my series, the higher the number, the more strict it is. So you can see here, it's allowing a little bit out. And if I move this up, you can see it starts to get stricter and allows less out. It's up to you to kind of decide what you want, but it's all about playing around here, guys. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and utilize maybe a high pass again here. We'll put a little bit of resonance on it and maybe a bit of gain, move it around here. Okay, you can already see it kind of working. Okay, with this mode that we have on right now, in envelope mode, however, it's utilizing, again, when the sound hits that threshold, it's activating it, but that's not what I want. I'm going to want an LFO. Maybe we can go with a rhythm one so that it's in time with what we're doing by having the MIDI there. From here, we can mess with this mod to kind of tell it how far along we want it to go. So I'm gonna move this guy maybe to the left there, around here. Just playing around with this, sort of have like a notch down the middle that's gonna be moving there. And then from here, obviously we're gonna make that a bar long, as that's how long our fill is gonna be going for. Okay, so we're gonna get that really nice kind of vibe to it. If you don't want, again, you want the sound to disappear for a split second, mess around with the filters till you get it. That's gonna give us something really cool like that. Now I do feel like the distortion in serum is a bit too much. We're gonna go with a 2. Okay, and we're gonna have that there. So from here, we're gonna tweak it. So this is gonna bring down this bottom menu where you're gonna be able to mess around with a couple of more things. The analog style here, you can have a squash, dirt. That messes with the sound. Okay, so what I'm going to do out here is mess around with the shape editor. That's what essentially is going to create the movement in the sound. And again, we're working with 1 bar. So I'm going to go in and maybe do like move it in here. And we're just going to mess with that a bit. So we're going to hold here, Alt to click, get rid of that. Okay, and then from there, we can maybe do some really cool stuff. So after messing around with Filter Freak for a bit, this is what I got. That's how it's going to sound like. From here, you can kind of go and look at it and question, you know, is it too low or should it be lower? To get that, or should we put it higher so that we actually get more of that big room saw sound? As you can see there, or... So it's going to be up to you. And again, you can still mess around with the big room saw. It all starts from serum and it moves along from there. But we're going to essentially have a lot of automations that are happening here. And finally, guys, once we have that, of course, we're going to use our all-time favorite. We're going to put a little bit of OTT in there, a little sprinkle of that, maybe some reverb if you want. And then from there, we can kind of gauge our amazing bass or whatever you've created for yourself. Now, once you have what you like, from there, it's just about processing it even further. Now, this is where it gets a little difficult because it all depends on how much you've been processing already. Now, I've gone in and messed with Filter Freak a little bit more, and I've also messed around with the MIDI melody of the sound. Now, I found that the last LFO that I had here was a little bit too complex for what we were doing, so I've just simplified it down to a sine going up and down. Nothing too fancy, but if you want to get fancy, you can definitely go for that. From there, we're gonna have that and I'm gonna add a bit more distortion. As you can hear, the sound is just asking to be pushed a bit more. Okay, and we're gonna go with that there. Now, of course, like I said, you can go and filter this. But again, all that movement is coming from the filter. We can even move this. Okay, from there, OTT. And then from there, the EQs you're going to be doing is all to taste. I mean, if you want this to have more highs, go for it. Just don't get too crazy. But a lot of times you are going to have stuff like in the mids or something that where you get a bit of an abundance. Your job is to kind of go in and accentuate the parts that sound good or remove the parts that don't sound good at all. And of course, you know, add a bit of reverb. And from there, I'll let you guys decide what kind of reverb you want to add to it. But let's see if this kind of fits the track we have here, just to see. I kind of want there to be a little bit more lows. Let's see if we can move the overdrive to the... Okay, let's ease up on the OTT. And then maybe we can put like an endless smile on it, because I feel like when it ends, there needs to be still some form of release on it, like a washout to it, so that it kind of feeds into the next bar and makes it sound a little better there. So we're just gonna go with a little bit of endless smile on it. Let's get rid of this view. Yeah, we can also move this frequency. I mean, that's another cool modulation that we can do with it, where it moves to the right and back down. gonna try it over here as well, because I don't. And then this one, you might want to give it a look. Maybe a bit too much reverb on it, but you guys get the idea. So if you learned anything from this video, guys, again, that sound that you guys like, it's not that hard to get. As long as you understand that it's all due to the fact that there's a bit of filtering, phasing, something going on in the sound, then I feel you could get it. If you get Filter Freak, guys, remember there's 2 of them. The first one, Filter Freak 1, just has 1 frequency, one filter input, and then the other one, this one has 2 of them, so you can do more intricate ones. Here we're doing sort of like a notch, as you can see, but again, we can always switch it to maybe notch, to get a different sound maybe. There we go, that changes it up. Let's see, do a bamp. There's another one, and again, mess around with the frequency you have it at and all that, but that is how you'd get these sort of sounds. And with that, guys, that is going to be the end of the tutorial. Now, of course, you can go ahead further, explore different sort of modulations that you can apply. Some of the cool ones you can do is with Serum. You can go into the creative filter, use a comb, a flanger in there, and move it. That also gives good results. But again, at the end of the day, as long as you realize that it's all about the modulation in the sound, utilizing change over time on it, then I feel like you guys are going to be able to create some really cool ones. All it takes is a little bit of effort and time. But again, I feel like once you learn the basics of it, then it becomes a little easier for you guys to execute. As always, guys, if you want to support the channel, make sure to head over to evilsounds.com. The stamp pack destinations will be coming out again on Friday, so I hope that you guys can check it out. And if you like what you hear, support the channel, and at the same time get some cool sounds in return so that you can make the music that you want. With that being said, guys, I'll catch you guys next time for another video. Peace.